maybe knock down a cooling tower or two, kind of tie them up for a little while, but then North Korea would just go ahead and cheat. If they were giving up their plutonium reactor, they were trying to enrich uranium at the same time. So these talks are really just at the start. The president has said he wants to see if he can develop a relationship with Kim Jong Un. He said before he left the summit in Quebec there in La Malbaie that he would know within a minute or so whether or not he thought that Kim was serious and whether this was going to work. The president saying, you know, when you meet somebody in the first 5 seconds.
Right there, the president of the United States has now landed on the ground in Singapore. Plane is stopped. We will await for him to walk down those stairs. John, we know with him is Secretary.
The president and the Secretary of State stood there at the end of the sidewalk where it meets the driveway and waved to him like you would wave to relatives who were going off after having a visit. So I think the president wants to see if he can develop a personal relationship with Kim Jong Un and get a sense of whether he is serious about denuclearization or whether this just might be another attempt by another member of the Kim family to play the United States for some economic benefit, but not really do anything in terms of...
If you would stay with us, we're going to take a quick pause, but we're going to continue to watch these images live. We're not pausing the broadcast. We're going to take a pause from you. We're going to come back to you briefly, John, as we watch the stairway move toward Air Force.
Interesting about the last 24 hours is he's in Canada.
There we have him. There is the President of the United States, Donald Trump, about to walk down those stairs, stepping foot in Singapore as we await this historic summit with the North Korean dictator, Kim Jong Un. Anthony, talk to us about this moment. I mean, this is history. We are living, regardless of what happens in that meeting between the two dictators, what we are seeing right now, this is history.
Yeah, because he's a disruptive risk taker. He's willing to break what would be the usual bonds of not going to a meeting like this, because he knows that if he goes to a meeting like this, he increases the chance of peace and global prosperity. And so you have to give him huge credit for being there. And here's the other thing about the president. If it doesn't work, he's an entrepreneur. And so he understands that when things do not work, you adapt yourself, you change your business model, you change your political decisions to make things work.
Anthony, as we watch President Trump meeting with the Singaporean officials, the foreign minister as well, do you think there's a sense amongst those officials over there that have seen American presidents come and go without any action whatsoever? Do you think there is a sense of surprise, of bewilderment, perhaps that this president was the one that made it happen?
So I would say for them, no, but I think for the world, yes. I think that they're starting to figure out the president. He's been there for 16, 18 months. He said something very interesting at the press conference yesterday. They asked him about what his relationships were like. He said they're a 10 out of 10, meaning that what you're seeing in the press and what you're seeing in the opposition forces against the president may not be actually what's going on the ground, particularly with our G7 leadership. I think he's got very strong relationships with them, but he's just trying to reset the table for the American workers and making it fairer.
That's right.
See the difference?
Yeah.
So I think these people, and what he's trying to pull off on behalf of the world.
Do you think it feels like he's staring down, whether it's Justin Trudeau, Emmanuel Macron, or even Kim Jong Un, younger guys with a lot less experience, most of it political, some of them placed there. And this is a guy who has
an inherent disadvantage. I'm going to tell you why, Peter. For 75 years, we unevened the trade playing field in order to help these countries grow after the Second World War. And if you look at these tariffs, yesterday he's in Canada in support of the American worker. If you got a 14.5% tax going into the EU and we're only taxing at 2.5%, it distorts all American goods and services. Let me give you a quick example. A Harley-Davidson for $9,000 here is selling for $20,000 in Germany. So it makes it very tough for our products to compete. I think what the president said yesterday was brilliant. Let's move to a no-tariff zone. It reminded me of Ronald Reagan when he gave the zero-missile option.
The very first time with the leader of North Korea. The president now is off to the Shangri-La Hotel. If you remember your Singapore geography, Abby, that's up near the Botanic Gardens. And he will spend tomorrow meeting with Singaporean dignitaries, in particular the Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong, and then that all-important first meeting with Kim Jong Un scheduled for 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, Singapore time, which would be 9 o'clock at night in the United States. And the president making it clear as he was leaving Quebec that this is just the start of a process. He doesn't believe that they're going to get it all done in one meeting. It may take him 2 or 3 meetings with Kim Jong Un to get that process underway. And if they can come to an agreement, and Mike Pompeo told us the other day at the White House that he has personal assurances from his 2 meetings with Kim Jong Un that he wants to denuclearize. But if the president can get an agreement with Kim Jong Un to begin that process, then that will put in place a flurry of meetings between U.S. and North Korean officials. Another very interesting thing that may happen Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock at night in New York time, and that would be 6 o'clock in the evening if you happen to live in California, is the president said that they may sign an agreement to end the war. Now, this would not be a peace deal. It would be an agreement to end the war, which would then put in place the process to craft some sort of a peace agreement, which would also have to be signed off on by South Korea.
Because what was noticeable was the new Italian premier will now get the red carpet rolled out in Washington. So the old guard of Merkel and co. May be unhappy with Trump, but they are diminishing in number and the world is changing.
A very non-subtle way in order to sort of establish his power, as you can say, in North Korea. He's continued to take North Korea down a path of belligerent goals of developing nuclear capabilities, and you know, it's interesting to see now how things are developing now.
Riley, I'm going to attempt to ask a nuanced question here. I don't know if
What do you think? It is a nuanced question, so it takes a nuanced answer. He does continue to have prison camps that, you know, they potentially test chemical and biological warfare weapons on, but at the same time, he might also be showing brutal punishment of high-level officials in order to maintain his power, which, in a sense, if he can assert that he has control, he might be less ruthless in the end.
Why do you think he's willing to come to the negotiating table now? If things gotten so bad for North Korea that he's feeling like at this point he just doesn't have a choice, they can't go on anymore?
Well, that's thanks to our maximum pressure, I think, certainly. You know, the North Korean economy it's hurting right now. Kim Jong Un himself, I think, realizes this, and I think he thinks it is potential that you know, he can make a deal with the Americans. He has the nukes, so he has the leverage to make a deal. He might be willing to give those up, but of course we should continue to apply this maximum pressure until we can actually verify that